Has hiring become more difficult? To talk about that, I'm joined by Alexandra Tillo. She's Senior Talent Marketing Consultant at Indeed Canada. Alexandra, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me, Linda. I'm very happy to be here with you today.
It's a really interesting report that Indeed has put out. And I know you looked at a lot of countries, and there's some really, really startling conclusions to me. But before we even get to that, I always like to ask my guests about their own background, how you ended up doing the work you're doing.
Oh, that's a very interesting question. Thank you for asking. So I moved in Canada 13 years ago, and I started my journey in sales. Actually, I ended up in the HR tech space quite fast, and I haven't lived since. So I've moved across. I was taking care of all the country of Canadian employers, and then I just realized how I love to get deep into the data, the analysis, really more towards the trends and all. And when there was an opportunity in talent marketing that opened, I thought that'll be a great experience and just a great step in my career. So I took on the role, and now I'm here chatting with you about hiring trends and market trends, and that's how I ended up here.
Well, it's an interesting time to be looking at them. I mean, a lot is changing right now. I thought this report was it's surprising in a way because you're talking about hiring and you're hearing from employers that it's actually harder to find people. And the first thing I thought was that's kind of counterintuitive because we hear that there's a lot of people looking for work. Surely it's easy to find people. So, what's behind this dichotomy?
Yeah, I had exactly the same reaction as you. When we look at, to your point, the market as it stands right now, there's a higher volume of candidates and fewer job available. So to your point, you thought it means there's more candidates per job. So why is it more difficult to hire? So through the survey, where we were able to piece together is actually the mindset that's causing the challenges. So the feedback we got from employers overall, globally, is that they are having a harder time finding quality candidates. And on the other hand, when we surveyed the job seekers, they're mentioning they're having a tougher time finding quality jobs. So it seems like everyone is mentioning the same issue, just from a very different angle and perspective.
When you say quality, are they getting from the employer side of this? Are they getting people applying who just aren't qualified? They don't have the technical skills, or is there something else they're not seeing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's actually where it lies. The challenge is really themselves understanding what quality means for them. Because there's a very, and you see it through the global report, there's a big discrepancy between what employer want in a job seeker, but what they actually write in their job description. So they're not sending the message to candidates about, the profile they're looking to hire versus what they actually need. So, for example, we are seeing an increase number of job postings that ask for bachelor degrees. For example, in Canada, we're seeing that. We call that degree inflation. So, and you're wondering, like, why that? And when you ask companies, they're actually telling you, oh, no, no, but it's just because it needs to be in the job description, but I'm more interested in the skills. But then this is not what you're asking for to the job seeker. And on the job seeker end, we're actually seeing a decrease in the number of enrollment of younger generation into university programs. I think it's actually the UK globally who's seeing the biggest recrudescence of the number of younger generation going into universities, which means we'll have fewer degrees, fewer master's degree, fewer bachelor degrees in the coming years. So it's a big discrepancy because they want to increase and develop their skills earlier. But then what they're facing is a job description that's asking them to have that degree. So there's a big mismatch between what employer want and how they go about it in the market.
Well, this is a big debate right now, the idea that you should be hiring for skills and not credentials, right? And some big companies, particularly in the US, I've seen said, we're not going to ask for credentials anymore. We just want to see the person who can do the job. Are you seeing that become more prevalent? Is it more prevalent in some countries, or is it still a really small micro trend at this point?
So yes, I would say So definitely, your observation is right. So the US is leading the way in the percentage of companies that have removed degree requirements in their job. I think we're about 16% right now who have done so. Canada is way behind, and other countries like in the UK, France. The Netherlands and Germany that were involved in the survey as well are behind. So the US is leading the way. And we, again, in Canada and the rest of the world, as I said, there is that willingness to do so. So we're hearing companies that say, we actually, it's a nice to have, but we really want to focus on the skills more. But this is not where they're asking what they put as a requirement in their job description, for example. So it is, I think it's a kind of a old school way to look at things, because the important things as well is when we chat with companies in the US, at the few that have done in Canada and the rest of the world, about what impact have they seen from removing, that degree requirement, that bachelor, that master, or other degree requirement for their job. The feedback is very positive. They see actually more quality because they do see more people with actual hand experience, like field experience, doing the job they are looking for. So people that are ready to go and work and about the job, they are seeing increased rate of retention, because actually what happens is people are actually thankful for companies that give them an opportunity to work when they haven't had the chance to do longer studies. So they are more sticky and they're more loyal to companies. And it leads as well to better performance, because they again have that positive attitudes toward the company that's even stronger that someone would have, for example, that credential. So really seeing positive, very, very positive feedback from those few companies that have applied that method. Again, US is leading right now, and hopefully we'll see other countries and Canada as well increasing the number of posting with that requirement.
If you're a company that genuinely does want to have skill-based hiring, but you've always done it one way, you've always said we have to put the bachelor's degree, and there's something to be said. I mean, in economics, the idea of just looking for graduates is part of the sorting, that not everyone who's graduating from university is brilliant or whatever, but they're a group of people that have a certain number of skills and attributes, and they're one place, so that's where you hire from. But if you really want to get away from that, what are the things you need to think about, and how do you have to go after people?
It's a great question. So that could take hours to answer, I think. I'm just going to try to wait, because again, it depends on the company, the size of the company. It will take some time, because you do need the buy-in, right? From top to bottom. I think companies, and from the companies I've chatted with that already starting that, it's really taking the time to look at, the department they have in their company, the type of role they have in the company, and they have to define almost a new description of what skills do you need for that job? What skill do you need for that other job? Like really taking the time to understand, okay, the person who is doing that job right now and that's successful, what are the skills that they have that contribute to that success? And again, it's usually not because they have a degree, it's because they have it could be a soft skills. It can be even how great of a communicator they are, how great they work with other teams. So it can be very interpersonal skills, soft skills, as I said, plus like experience, not in the industry, but some type of experience. So it is not something that's going to happen overnight, and we do understand that. It is something that the higher up in the company needs to be involved in, to make sure everyone in the company adhere to that vision. Because at the end of the day, what I'm hearing the most from companies again who are who are starting to define those roles and those skills. They're having a hard time getting the buying from the hiring managers, actually. So the leadership is really pushing towards that message. But hiring managers, because to your point, they've always done a certain way, it's really hard to change a behavior. So this is where there's a lot of efforts being put from companies right now, is internal training, because you need to train your people, you need to train your hiring managers to understand that perception change and the why behind it so they can embrace it and then apply it on the day to day.
Alexandra, stay with me. I want to talk more about soft skills, particularly. We'll be right back.
If you're enjoying this conversation and want to bring insights like these to your next event, visit lindanazareth.com to book Linda Nazareth as your keynote speaker. Linda is an economist and futurist, and she is a dynamic and experienced speaker who has presented to audiences across a broad range of industries on the megatrends shaping the economy and the future of work. That's lindanazareth.com, or send an email to speaking@lindanazareth.com.
We're back with Alexandra Tillo. She is with Indeed Canada, and we're talking about skills-based hiring. I want to pick up on something you said, Alexandra, which was about soft skills. It's something I've been spending a lot of time looking at recently because the World Economic Forum has really highlighted the skills that workers are going to need in future, and they are things like creativity and empathy and resilience. Those are hard things to screen for. I mean, are people saying in actual companies that they want those skills? And if they do want them, are they doing anything systematic to try to find people that have those skills? Because managers are going to be tested. They're going to need, a lot of different attributes. And I don't know that we always have them in place.
Yes, 100%. So there's different things in place right now, and obviously that's going to be developed as year comes. But I think it's where AI come into play, and so companies are adapting tools that are helping them identify those soft skills. For example, and indeed, we do have a tool called Smart Sourcing. So what it does is scans a resume and only highlight the competencies and the skills, and that's what's presented to a company. So it's not looking at, for example, at degrees and such things. It's really trying to understand from experience and all what are the skills job seeker have. So from that, it gives more time to hiring managers to interview, because the goal of AI or the goal of having such a tool is saving that looking at all the resumes and filtering resumes so they can spend more time learning more about a candidate and actually, the human connection side of things and chatting with candidates. So what we are seeing is actually an increased number of interviews, face-to-face interviews, video interviews, to try and really understand who the person behind the resume is. So there's a lot of behavioral questions, for example, and more assessment as well being put in place by companies. The US, again, is a bit a big adapter of the assessment type of tools to evaluate candidates' soft skills. Then other companies in Europe, such as UK and in France, are doing a great job at that as well. And we're seeing companies really relying more on those tools to really understand if the job seeker has those soft skills core attributes.
Oh, it's really interesting that you say that AI is helping with this. I think we have the notion that AI is doing the opposite, right? That it's somehow not really screening people's softer attributes, it's just looking for particular keywords and the like. But you're seeing the opposite impact.
Yeah, I'm seeing more and more tools. Again, it's being developed every day, but we're seeing more and more tools that are actually focusing on that. So really, the way you program your AI makes you tell your program, okay, this is what I'm looking for. This is the type of skills I'm looking for. Evaluate a resume, highlight me the strength of the resume towards those specific skills I'm looking for. Obviously, let's be honest, like just reading a resume is not going to tell you the entire story, but at least it can give you, okay, from people's experience, from the way they've described their experience, the words they use, and the skills they've input in their resume, it gives you a lead on who will probably be a better fit. Then you make the first selection, the AI makes the first selection, and then the human comes into play to really dig into those information and really meet the person and actually have that human connection. So it actually, I think, and I hear that sometimes AI people are a bit afraid of it, but if it's used properly with a positive goals, then it should definitely free some time for the hiring managers from the recruiters to actually connect with the person who's behind that resume.
You know, years ago, people used to put hobbies on their resumes. I don't
I
know, do they
remember
still do
that.
that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I did that. I remember in my first resumes, my hobbies were in it.
Is that done anymore? Because if you're looking for attributes, sometimes those things give a clue, right? What people
Yeah,
are good at.
yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
We don't see that much of a hobby, but we do see people more and more talking about volunteering work, for example. So the type of it could be charity. We can be, oh, you know what? I've actually in my free time, I've done that training on my own, even, on the internet. This is the link of the training I've been through. This is the takeaway I learned from it. So more and more people are actually explaining the I'll say extra curriculum things they're doing to give them more, it could be the soft skills, but the hard skills as well. So the more details they give about it, the better it is at really understanding who they are as a person. So yes, we don't see so much of the hobbies, but we see everything that they can bring to the table and that will help them in a professional landscape. Yes. I
So
recommend doing it for sure.
well, let's talk about this from the job seeker's point of view, because there's so much I see online that people say they've given it their all. They put in 100 resumes. It seems like people are putting out ads and they're not hiring. If you were going to give advice to people who are looking for work, what are the things that you could recommend?
Yeah, so what I hear often, and it's something that from what I see, I don't agree with. It's a game number. So we see a lot of people applying to a quantity of jobs. But again, on their end, they're a bit overseeing what the actual job entails. What's really important is they make sure they personalize their resume to make sure the company can understand why they would be a good fit. If you have such a standard resume, that it means you can apply to 100 jobs, you're probably not doing it correctly because you should not be able to apply to 100 jobs with something that's very basic or very standard. Companies need to understand the why you will be a good candidate for it. They need to understand what you've learned from your past experience that will match what they're looking for, what the company is, their company values, culture, for example. So I think it's really important for job seekers to understand that on both sides. There's a willingness from a company to hire and there's a willingness from job seeker to find a job. So it's kind of forgetting it's not just a transaction, it's actually working together. So you have to put the effort from the get-go, because if you don't do so, then the company would already have a somehow negative perception of you as a job seeker if you haven't really shown that you've actually took in consideration them as an employer or the actual job they're offering.
I have to ask you about new graduates because we talked about skills-based
Mhm.
hiring, and
Yes.
oftentimes what the graduates have is the degree. They don't really have the experience. And
Mhm.
this is a very tough year for people without the experience.
Yeah.
Is there any considerations there for what companies should be looking for and what the grad should be doing to find work?
Yes, that's a great question. So I see actually more and more, and Indeed is really trying as well to educate companies on the younger generation or on multi-generational hiring. It's actually the first time in ever, I think, we have so many generation in the workplace at the same
Mm,
time. I think we're 4 or 5 at the
yeah,
same time.
five.
Yeah, five. So I mean, it's a challenge, and it needs to be, employers understand that. So for younger generation, companies are really developing like early talent attraction. I really advise younger generation to go to campus recruitment to meet companies. More and more companies do that. To network is a big one as well. To go to forums. If you're in a city that's you're lucky to be in a big city where they have those conferences, just go and like shake hands, trying to understand a bit better what's the job or the industry you want to work for. And definitely for companies, I think we are seeing that there's the companies getting older. A lot of people are going to retire soon, so they're really now starting to open their door to younger generation. It might appear a bit slow right now, but it's really something they're working hard on it. So for the younger generation, as I said, if during their summertime, for example, they want to volunteer and do things like that, I think it's a strong way of showing the type of person you are as well. That you are like you are able to go in the market and you have that courage to dedicate some of your time to some causes, for example. That would be a great impact. But definitely I would say the networking is the number one, and just going and meet employers when they are at those campus recruitment. That would be a big, I think, a big shift, because then they'll be inclined to company will be inclined to answer questions and really have that open communication before they even enter the job market. So it will really help them prepare for when that's coming for them.
It's a really interesting time to be watching all of this. A lot going on. I really appreciate you talking to me today, Alexandra.
Of course, Linda, my pleasure. It was really nice talking to you.
Alexandra Tillo is Senior Talent Marketing Consultant at Indeed Canada. Thanks for listening to Work in the Future. If today's episode sparked ideas for your organization, reach out. I would love to help you shape the future of work at your next event. To discuss your event and book me as a speaker or moderator, please visit lindanazareth.com or email speaking@lindanazareth.com. You can also visit me on Instagram at Linda Nazareth Keynote Speaker and send me a direct message there. If you did like this discussion about the future of work, please remember to subscribe to the podcast. Also, your reviews really help people to find us, so please make sure you take time to leave one wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks so much for listening. And as always, thank you to Stokely Audio for audio production.